Welcome to the Art of Us podcast, where we bridge the gender divide series. Today, we're doing a deep dive based on material from Xavier Ezra Borrero.
That's right, a book that's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and ElevatePublishingCo.com.
The Art of Us, Bridging the Gender Divide. It's about understanding, communication, bridging gaps.
Absolutely. And if you're finding this discussion interesting, you really should check out the full book by Xavier Ezra Borrero. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the ElevatePublishingCo.com website.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and ElevatePublishingCo.com. So welcome to this deep dive into reciprocity, based on the book by Xavier Ezra Borrero.
Great topic.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3, which is called Reciprocity, the Missing Link.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those words, isn't it? Reciprocity.
P-R-A-H-C-T.
Yeah. Sounds big. Sounds maybe a little academic.
Yeah.
Like something you'd hear in a lecture.
Or a legal textbook, maybe.
Exactly. But the beauty this material reveals is that the concept itself is incredibly simple and, profoundly human.
Right.
At its core, reciprocity just means mutual exchange. It's the dance of give and take.
Rhythm.
Yeah, think of it as a rhythm, a flow, a vital balance in any connection.
And the reason it's called the missing link, it becomes pretty clear when you think about what happens when that balance is off, right?
Absolutely. The material uses these analogies that they stick with you.
Like the Monopoly one.
Yeah. You can't just land on Boardwalk every single time and expect to collect rent if you never pass. Go to get your $200. The whole system it breaks down.
It doesn't work.
Or the one about the bank account. You simply cannot keep making withdrawals if you're not making any deposits.
It's just unsustainable.
Completely.
Yeah.
And yet you see this pattern play out constantly in relationships of all kinds, don't you?
All the time. People showing up with expectations, wanting a payout, but arriving with, empty hands.
Or an empty account, yeah.
What this chapter helps us understand, though, is that the challenge often isn't malicious intent. It's not always overt selfishness.
Right. A significant problem is simply routine or giving based on outdated information.
Outdated settings.
Exactly. You might be trying to give, you're putting in effort, sure, but you're operating on old settings. The person you're in a relationship with today might have completely different needs than they did 5-10 years ago.
People grow, things change.
Circumstances change, and their needs shift. Definitely.
That's such a crucial insight, because if you're still interacting with someone based on a model from the past, based on what they needed or what worked, then...
It doesn't matter how much energy you're expending.
Right. They aren't receiving what they genuinely need today.
It's like bringing a huge tub of ice cream because they loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
But what they really need now is, ingredients for a healthy dinner, or maybe just someone to listen.
So your effort is there, but the impact... it's just not landing.
It's nil because it's not the needed currency. And this leads inevitably to the consequence of imbalance, which the material describes so well. It's rarely like a sudden explosion.
No, it's insidious. It's resentment.
Quiet.
Very quiet. It builds slowly, kind of like a leak in the ceiling you barely notice.
Until it's too late.
Until one day, suddenly, water's pouring down, and the structural damage is extensive. It corrodes the connection from within.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit more, because the chapter pushes back on the easy assumption that resentment just means someone is selfishly taking.
Yeah, it makes a really important point. Sometimes people weren't just selfishly taking. They simply were never taught how to give in balance.
Taught. That's interesting. What's powerful here is the assertion that reciprocity isn't hardwired into us. It's not an instinct.
It's learned behavior.
It's learned. And if you think about the environments many people grew up in, the models they saw, well, they were often focused on survival, right? On individual coping, maybe on scarcity.
Not really on collaborative partnership.
Not on mutual thriving, no.
Yeah, that resonates. The material talks about how we often just sort of recycle models from our upbringing. And if the main model you saw, or the one you lived in, was unbalanced, maybe one person always giving, the other always receiving, or just everyone fending for themselves,
then the way you approach giving and receiving in your adult relationships might be fundamentally skewed.
and you might not even realize it.
Exactly. It's not about blame. It's about recognizing the pattern you were shown as normal.
Right.
The chapter even touches on a more philosophical angle, almost spiritual, suggesting that even principles of divinity or universal flow work in agreement. Well, like grace, for instance. It often requires participation, doesn't it? You don't typically reap a harvest if you haven't sown any seeds.
Right. You need movement from both sides.
A co-creation, yeah. not just passive reception or a one-sided output.
So the core message isn't really to point fingers or make people feel bad.
Not at all. It's more about asking a foundational question. What were you taught about giving and receiving? Who modeled healthy, balanced exchange for you?
Because until you can actually see the patterns, the ones you inherited or developed,
It's incredibly difficult to change them.
But here's where it gets really interesting. And the chapter offers significant hope.
Yeah, the fantastic news is that you can rewrite that code.
Okay.
This isn't about being told you're broken. It's about gaining clarity on a system that might be broken within you, maybe,
Yeah.
but that you absolutely have the power to fix.
So you weren't born knowing how to live in imbalance.
The material suggests you were taught it, shown it, maybe even rewarded for it in unhealthy ways, and you learn to call that dynamic normal.
But once you identify the deficit, once you see how it works,
You're no longer trapped. You can unlearn the old programming. You can choose to reset.
and start engaging in ways that are actually nourishing
That's-
for both people.
Exactly. And the fundamental practice, distilled beautifully by the chapter, is elegantly simple. Give what you want to receive.
Give what you want to receive.
Okay.
It's not about keeping a precise tally sheet or demanding tit for tat.
No scorekeeping.
Right. It's about intentionality. It's understanding that your giving needs to be matched by receiving, and your receiving needs to be supported by your giving for a healthy flow.
The material is really clear on this, isn't it?
Right.
The energy, the effort, the care. If it's only flowing in one direction,
That isn't love. No.
it's something else.
It's something else entirely. The material labels it as maybe control, or perhaps just convenience for the person on the receiving end.
That's powerful.
And as the chapter strongly reminds us, we are designed for something far richer than that. We're made for genuine connection.
A space where needs are acknowledged, met, where energy invested is returned, and where presence is matched with presence. A shared space, Not a space owned by one and merely occupied by another.
Okay, so when we think about putting this into practice, where do we even start?
Well, the material emphasizes it starts with you,
Right.
with that process of unlearning the old models, and crucially, with checking your emotional ledger.
Ah, the emotional ledger. Okay, tell us about that.
This is the practical heart of the bank account analogy, but brought into the realm of feelings and connection.
Okay.
Think of emotional deposits as actions or interactions that make someone feel seen, heard, valued, appreciated, supported, loved.
What kind of things are those?
Things like active listening, offering genuine encouragement, remembering small details, showing up when things are tough, celebrating their successes.
Or just offering simple, unsolicited kindness.
Exactly. Those are deposits.
And emotional withdrawals.
Those are the things that diminish that feeling of value or support. Ignoring someone's needs, dismissing their feelings, taking their efforts for granted.
Constant criticism.
Constant criticism, absence during important moments, or, only reaching out when you need something.
Got it. So just like a financial account.
The emotional account needs regular, consistent deposits from both parties to remain healthy.
Both parties, that's key.
Absolutely. The chapter uses another wonderfully blunt analogy. You can't possibly expect ice cream to be in the freezer if the only thing you ever buy and stock is broccoli.
Huh. Right. You have to contribute the ingredients for the outcome you want.
You have to make deposits to have something to withdraw from. Simple as that.
The real danger, then, lies in that unbalanced ledger.
Definitely. If one person is always the initiator, always texting first, planning the dates, making the effort to connect, doing the small, thoughtful things.
While the other person is just coasting.
Essentially coasting, yeah.
Yeah.
Passively receiving the benefits without contributing equally to the emotional capital. That account is heading for bankruptcy, fast.
And that's where the resentment comes in.
That's precisely where resentment, that quiet leak we talked about, gets its most solid foothold. Healthy relationships, the chapter stresses, depend on both people actively contributing to keep that emotional balance thriving.
And this isn't just about romantic partners, is it?
Oh no. The material makes it clear this dynamic plays out in all types of connections. Think about your friendships.
Absolutely. The chapter gives that instantly recognizable example.
The text message.
Yeah. Getting a text from a friend you haven't heard from in months, and you just know deep down before you even open it.
This is going to be a favor request.
Hey, long time no talk.
Right.
So could you maybe help me move next weekend?
Right. It highlights that in truly reciprocal friendships, the connection isn't transactional like that.
You're there for the big stuff, sure.
You're there for the major life crises, of course, but you're also there for the mundane Tuesdays, the silly inside jokes, the spontaneous coffee runs, the quiet moments of just being present.
You celebrate their wins, listen when they're down.
Share the small joys of everyday life. It's genuinely a two-way street of care and connection.
And the material is explicit. This same principle applies universally.
Across the board. Romantic relationships within families, even in professional contexts where collaboration and mutual support are key.
The form of the exchange might look different.
But the fundamental need for balanced contribution remains the same.
And crucially, giving isn't about giving the exact same thing you receive, right? Or just giving in the way you prefer to give.
That's a huge point. It's about meeting your partner's needs, which are tied to their individual strengths, their vulnerabilities, and how they feel most seen, heard, and loved.
Love languages, basically.
Yeah, kind of like that. One person might naturally express care through acts of service, doing things for the other.
While their partner might primarily need words of affirmation or quality time.
Exactly. So reciprocity in this context means understanding and valuing the other person's needs and love language and trying to meet them there, even if it's not your default mode of giving.
That takes conscious effort.
It does. What's fascinating is how this chapter connects reciprocity directly to the concept of synergy.
Synergy, okay.
It introduces synergy with that classic idea of 1 + 1 = 3, where two forces working together create something exponentially greater than the sum of their individual parts.
More than just the two pieces added together.
Right. And for that kind of synergy to truly manifest, for that magic to happen, both individuals must be genuinely and fully invested.
Not just physically present.
No, mentally, emotionally, and yes, even spiritually, in the sense of bringing their whole selves and energy to the connection.
Which brings us back to reciprocity.
This is precisely why reciprocity is the absolute prerequisite.
Because if only one person is consistently making those deposits, if only one person is truly invested in carrying the weight,
that synergy is simply impossible. It's like trying to achieve liftoff with only one engine firing.
Or that image from the chapter, trying to push a car uphill by yourself.
Exactly. It's incredibly taxing, draining, and ultimately unsustainable. You might make tiny progress, but you'll burn out long before you reach the top.
But when both people commit to the flow, to both giving and receiving,
that's when you unlock the potential for synergy. It flourishes naturally when both individuals feel safe enough to bring their best selves.
Knowing their own needs will be considered.
Knowing implicitly that their own needs will be considered and met while they are also actively engaged in meeting the needs of their partner.
So reciprocity isn't just about fairness then, it's the bedrock.
It's the fundamental bedrock that sets the stage for deeper trust, mutual respect, and profound connection. Synergy isn't something you can force into existence. It's the organic, powerful outcome of that vital balance being present and nurtured.
Now, while the concept of reciprocity might sound simple, give and take, right? The chapter's pretty realistic about it.
Yeah, practicing it consistently is hard. Life intervenes.
Stressful periods, health issues, personal crises.
These can absolutely cause temporary imbalance in relationships. And the material offers a kind perspective on this. A temporary dip where one person needs to lean more heavily is okay. That's part of support.
But it's when it becomes the norm.
The problems and the resulting resentment arise when that imbalance becomes the default, the sustained norm. Yeah.
There are also internal barriers, aren't there?
Oh, definitely. Fear and insecurity play a huge role.
Fear of what? Giving too much?
Fear of giving too much and losing yourself, maybe? Or fear of not being enough. Insecurity around articulating your own needs.
Feeling weak or selfish for even having needs.
Exactly. That requires something from someone else.
Or sometimes, as the chapter points out, with a touch of grace.
People genuinely don't realize the extent to which they are taking more than they are giving.
Until the relationship starts to show the strain.
Until it begins to visibly strain under the weight of those unmet expectations and that depleted emotional ledger. It can be a wake-up call rather than a deliberate act of neglect.
Okay, so drawing together the key insights from this chapter, the powerful argument is that reciprocity isn't just like a nice to have in relationships.
No, it is the essential, indispensable missing link for creating truly balanced and thriving connections.
When both partners, in any type of relationship, are consistently contributing to that emotional ledger.
Making regular deposits of care, effort, presence.
Relationships don't just limp along, they flourish.
They flourish. They lead to shared understanding, deep mutual respect and the kind of powerful synergy where together you can build something far greater than either person could alone.
You simply cannot build a sustainable, vibrant, deeply connected relationship if the energy is only flowing one way.
It absolutely has to be a two-way street,
Yeah.
navigated by both with intention and care.
And ensuring that your giving is aligned with a healthy flow of receiving. That's what cultivates the balance over time.
Fostering continuous growth, strengthening the connection, and allowing that true synergy to emerge. The chapter leaves us with that resonant truth. You ultimately cannot withdraw what you haven't deposited.
There's a powerful quote that sums this up, isn't there?
Yes. Reciprocity is the heartbeat of meaningful relationships, where kindness and trust intertwine. It's not just about equal exchanges, it's about nurturing a shared bond that transforms individual efforts into a profound connection.
Wow. That's beautifully put.
It really is.
So, as you, our listener, reflect on your own relationships with partners, friends, family, colleagues, and consider this powerful concept of the emotional ledger and the vital need for balance, here's something to think about.
What's one small intentional adjustment, either in how you offer your energy and care, or perhaps in how you allow yourself to receive support, that you feel might help create just a little bit more of that essential balance in one of your key relationships?
Just one small thing to start.
A massive thank you, obviously, to Xavier Ezra Borrero for these incredible insights presented in The Art of Us, Bridging the Gender Divide. And again, you can find his book, explore all of this much more deeply. It's by Xavier Ezra Borrero, available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Go pick up The Art of Us, Bridging the Gender Divide, and continue this exploration for yourself. In a world that often feels divided, let's keep building a community grounded in unity and understanding, and try to lead by example. And a thank you all for listening to The Art of Us, Bridging the Gender Divide. Until next time.